In example number 6, we're considering the market for Apple iPods, and we have two different factors impacting our market. So, the first thing is that surpluses in the semiconductor industry mean that the cost of a hard drive that Apple uses to make iPods falls. So, we're going to address that impact in our first market graph that I drew here. And then the second factor that happens is that it comes to light that Apple is employing children in sweatshops to assemble the iPad. So we're going to assess the impact of that change over here in the second graph. So, and then we'll look at the net impact of both changes at the same time. So starting with the surpluses in the semiconductor industry, what would be the effect on iPods? Well, if there's a surplus in the semiconductor market, then that's going to drive down the price of a semiconductor, right? Whenever we have an excess supply or a surplus of something, that item tends to become cheaper as sellers try to push their inventory that's just sitting in the stores. So cheaper semiconductors translates into a cheaper cost of producing iPods, right? The marginal cost of making an iPod is going to decline. So we illustrate that by shifting out or down the supply curve to S2. So this would lead to a new equilibrium if this was the only thing happening to the market for iPods, where the quantity of iPods bought and sold would increase from Q star to Q star 2. And the price of an iPod would also decrease from P star to P star 2. So the cheaper production costs in the form of cheaper semiconductors would be eventually passed along to consumers in the form of cheaper iPods. All right, so now let's take a look at the other thing that's happening, which is that we have the child labor issue come to light. Right, and how are consumers going to feel about this new information? Right, they're not going to like the fact that they're supporting a company that employs child labor and sweatshops. So they're going to decrease their demand. They're going to not buy as many iPods, and we'll see a shift in of the demand curve from D to D2. Right, and if this were the only thing happening, the impact would be a new equilibrium with a lower quantity of iPods bought and sold, Q star 2, and that lower demand would actually drive down the price for iPods. All right, so on looking at sort of the net impact, right, we have an increase in the quantity due to this factor, but a decrease in the quantity due to the second factor. We have a drop in the price due to the first factor and a drop in the price due to the second factor. So it seems pretty clear that the price is going down overall because both factors are contributing to a lower price, but the impact on quantity is unclear. We would say it's ambiguous, right? So overall, the change in price is a decrease in the price, so P star falls, but the change in the quantity in equilibrium is ambiguous. We can't tell for sure unless we have more information on which effect dominates. Now, importantly, note that we analyze these changes separately because if we had analyzed them on one graph, which we can do, the outcome might be sort of misleading or not obvious. So let's start out at our original Q star, P star. Okay, and then let's put in the first impact, which is shifting out or to the right of the supply curve. And then let's put in our second factor, which is the breaking news about the children working in sweatshops. So that's a lower demand curve. Okay, and the net impact is a new equilibrium where the new supply and the new demand curves meet. So here we see pretty clearly that we have a new lower price, But the change in quantity, the way I drew it, the two factors just perfectly canceled out. That is, the rising quantity and the dropping quantity perfectly matched up, so there was no change in Q star. But in reality, we can't say that that's true, right? It's possible that this effect dominates this one or vice versa. So again, we would conclude that the change in quantity is ambiguous. However, this drop in price is confirmed when we do our individual analysis because both of the factors contribute to a falling price.